Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to break into these walls, so we'll make it a more complicated room than what you're seeing. And I'm going to just cut a hole in this, and I'm aiming toward this point and this point down below. And I'm coming across like so. And that corner is going to come across, and now I'm aiming toward this point over here and this point over here. So the line will come across like so. And now I'm aiming toward the top and the bottom one. So what I'm basically doing is cutting a hole in this wall, because I want to project it back in space and have it be a lot more complicated than what we first created, just to show that it can get very, very complicated. So now we have a hole in the wall, and I'm going to project toward that vanishing point back in space, and it's doing the same thing as this line is here. It's aiming that way, so it has to go back in space like this. This one coming off of this corner has to aim toward that way too, and coming off of this corner, and it's going way back in space. Alright, then we can cut it off however big we want, how far back we want that wall to go. Now we're going to be aiming up and down, just like the edges, these two edges are doing. So you cut it off there, and then off of that given corner, you have you have to project toward these 2 points where it hits here. This comes down, and then once you get a given corner, this is going toward the top point again and the bottom point. And if everything is drawn exactly right, this should be a line that comes across here that finishes up the back end. So now all of a sudden you'd be able to step up here, walk back in space, and go back into another room. And I'm going to just show you that you can actually make it even more complicated by cutting a hole in this wall back here. And if you follow the lines that are making up the wall, you'll notice that they're projecting, these are projecting toward here and the back side. These are projecting here and the back side also, because these 2 lines are parallel to each other. Now in a drawing, parallel lines actually go toward a point, which of course isn't parallel anymore, but that's what we call it. So there's another room back in here. I'm going to project it back toward this point, and it's parallel to these lines, and I'm going to just have it go all the way towards it, and it would actually come to a point right there. So there's a room within a room, and then you have like let's put a door and a window on this. I'm going to have a door right here. It has to aim toward the top point and the bottom point, just like this edge of the wall does. I'm going to get it up about this high. This determines how tall this building is, or how tall the room is. This aims toward this point. This goes straight up toward the top point and toward the bottom point. And you can tell if it's right because it should look like it fits on that wall. And it does kind of look like it. Alright, they're getting closer to the point down here, so it gets more narrow. I think this seems like it's going a little, I think we're a little too high. I'm going to move this down to about here with that line. I'll erase that later. But that looks more like it's accurate. Now I'm going to put a window right in here too. And it goes up to the top point, down to the bottom point. And I'm going to cut it off about right here. Okay, and if that door and window have thickness to it, this is aiming toward that point for thickness. It'd be back like this. This is above the eye. This is your eye level, so this would be aiming down toward that. So this would be the thickness here. And then it would cut across, now that we're using that line, it'd cut across like that. Alright, so now we have a window, but the window, there's your eye, so you'll be seeing depth on all sides of that window. It'll become projecting in toward that point, and you'll have depth on all sides. And it's kind of fun when you actually do this of a real spot. It's like a little bit different. It's you have to kind of look at the subject matter and turn the ball so that it makes sense. Sometimes you look ahead and spin it, keep spinning it ahead of where you're drawing, because you're turning in a circle looking at the room too, so the ball has to spin as well. So that's another whole assignment when you're actually looking at a real subject matter. Okay, so now we've got a door and a window, and we've got a room with another room off to the side. I'm going to have I'll have a big open door, like right here. And that would, I'm going to end up having to erase this line, but this line would, once I do that, that would have to be erased. I'll have to do that when we get some time here. Okay, so let's go on with this and open up this. Let's open up this side. We've got an awful lot of wall over here, so let's break this, cut a hole in it, extend it down. Remember, this is aiming to the top, aiming toward the bottom point. Every time you draw a line, it's aiming toward two poles. Okay, and I'm going to cut this across here, over to this point over there. This is going up to the top, and it's going to come down. I'm going to have a step up on this one too. Might have to have some little stairways in order to pull this all off. Okay, so now we've got that all drawn, and now we want to determine how far back in space do we want that to go. We could actually go to infinity. That would just take all of these lines to a point, but not many buildings go to infinity. They usually have some sort of an end to them. So we'll put an end to it somewhere out here. We're going to project back in like this to this point. When I'm over on this side of the ball, I pretty well can concentrate on the one point, even though I know it's going around to the opposite side, because it's close enough to where you're still pretty accurate with it. Alright, so now we have the projection in. We need a wall back in that back side. I might extend it a little bit further so it kind of gets cut off like that. Now this is aiming up there, aiming down toward this point. That's that back wall. Now we're got this given corner we have to deal with. So then it comes across toward this point and intercepts this line there. That tells me where that back corner is. So it's got to come down, and it's aiming up there. Alright, so then this comes across, and these three should intersect if everything is going right. So now we have another room. So as you look at this, we're looking out the door. There's a window. We could actually break that into panes of glass too. This is another room that goes back in here. You could turn this into a kitchen. This could be a bedroom over here. This could be a bathroom over here, and so on and so forth. One of the things you can do too, I'm going to just use my erasable ink just so I square this off. But when you get into a little different, like an archway, I'm laying it out, and then I'm going to turn this into a curve here, and into a curve here. So maybe you're in a cathedral or something. And so now I'm going to just erase that a little bit. So we're just to the pure archway. There we go. All right, so and once you have one archway, you might want to do another one back in space here. So this might be a door back in here that is an archway also. So you carry out that theme a little bit. Maybe this could turn into an arch too. I'm going to just do that and I'll come back and erase that later. We'll think of that as a curve on the top. And then this would actually feed up into this like so, and then it would disappear over on this side. So that would be, and it could have I could leave this if I just wanted to put another line across here and be like a little square door below with a little arch on the top of it. So, okay, so now we're moving along. We have, now let's just see if we can get a table. I'm going to put a table somewhere right here in the middle of this. I'm going to start with a table running square with the rest of the building. And it's running right over the vanishing point. Let's see the vanishing point over here. And this has to run to that direction. So that the trouble with the the trouble with all the lines now, they're all going to, legs are all going to the center. I'm going to move another table over here, so you can see what happens when you have it. It runs square with the building, has to go to that point, and then you come off of with some thickness, like that. And so these lines run toward that bottom point. And this time it's off to the side, so the legs are going to be aiming down this way toward this point. This one would go that way, and so would this one. Then they'd be doubled up, tripled up legs. So that's what a legs on a table would look like. The depth would go back in here. So there's a little table sitting there. But it was important to realize that if you put the table right over the vanishing point, all the legs are going toward that point, so you don't see them at all. They don't see any legs. So and you might put like a little pot of maybe it's supper sitting on the table there, so you might have plates all around there. So that you can add all kinds of details there. If you have this kind of archway, this needs some thickness going back in space here, arching around. Your eye is here, so you're going to see depth all around the edge of that. All right, so now let's see what we can do here. So I'm going to add some. I'm going to add a few more windows in here. Put them on the same spot. I'm going to put. Let's see. An array. I'm going to do about 3 windows across here. And these lines run straight up and down. Okay, and then if you want thickness to it, you'd have to aim toward that point. I'm going to leave it for a little bit here, and then I'm going to put a big archway like we have on the others, breaking up that wall. It's sort of like a So you'd see thickness there. Now if you had, if you wanted to have a hole in the floor, I don't know why you'd have a hole in the floor, but maybe you do. You just cut a hole like this. I'm going to just do this. I'm not sure what this is for. Maybe it's a little pool or something. Cutting across, aiming toward that point. It's like so, and then the depth goes down toward this bottom point. And back toward here. So you have a little hole in the floor for some reason, just for something to fall into when you might want to fall into something. And then archways, let's see, this could have an array of windows down here too. I'm going to put one there, one here. Cut this off here in the bottom of that. And you could have them going down through there. This could have a doorway in it. So this is gets to be oh, let's see, I forgot this line goes back in, and so a little doorway in here would look like that. And you start to get it filled up. Maybe in this corner it looks like a great place for a plant. Put a pot right there. And some kind of an exotic plant coming up here. Alright, so we got a little plant in the corner. I think sometimes adding plants is really kind of a cool thing. It makes it look more like a home. Let's see what's going on out this direction. We could have another archway like we have on this side, and then we're going to come back with a little color here and see if we can talk about how you color this in, because I always find coloring it in. Okay, so this is, I'm going to use my erasable ink. This is how the line would run, but I want that to turn into a curve instead. Alright, so there, and then a little depth, thickness on that. Alright, and it goes up, curves into that.